The United Nations has issued 3 recommendations calling for the abolition of Japan's marital surname provision as discriminatory against women. Japan has continued to ignore them and has not changed anything to this day. Minasan konnichiwa and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. If married, the couple must have the same family name. It is said that Japan is the only country in the world with such an outdated law. For years, there has been discussions about separate surnames for married couples. Why hasn't it been realized yet? Why do we continue to force women to undergo the tiresome process of changing their last names? So today, I will explain about the history of surnames of married couples in Japan. After that, I will explain some theories as to why the separate surname system has not been implemented in Japan even today. By watching this video, you can have a deeper understanding of the root idea that is common in various social problems in Japan. This video is especially recommended to those who are willing to study or work in Japan someday. I understand today's topic can be quite controversial, so it would be great if you can let me know your opinions in the comments. In this channel, you can take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. それでは本日も参りましょう。Let's begin by talking about the history of surnames in Japan. 1. When surnames of married couples became the same. 2. Why married couples must have the same surname. 3. Disadvantages of married couples having the same surname. 1. When the surnames of married couples became the same. To make long story short, the same surname for married couples was introduced only 120 years ago in 1898, when Japan westernized through the Meiji Restoration. Until then, Japan had separate surnames for married couples for thousands of years. And most commoners didn't even have surnames in the first place. For example, the famous wife of Minamoto no Yoritomo, who started the Kamakura shogunate, was called Hojo Masako even after her marriage. Also, Hinotomiko, who was the wife of the 8th Muromachi shogun, Ashikaga Yoshimasa, did not become Ashikaga Tomiko either. Finally, in 1875, as part of the westernization and modernization policy, all citizens were required to take a family name. About 20 years later, the same family name for married couples became mandatory. However, the system at that time was even more discriminatory against women than today. Women always had to take the surname of men, and men were able to add children with other women as a family member without the wife's permission. In 1947, after World War II, this terrible system was abolished, and married couples were allowed to take either one's surname as long as they have the same one. This means it's only been about 70 years since the current laws have been taking place. By the way, even though you are allowed to freely choose either surname, in reality, about 96% of married couples take the husband's surname. 2. Why married couples must have the same surname. It's understandable that everyone needed a surname in order to follow the system of the Western world. But why were married couples forced to have the same surname? This is because the current family register is a remnant of the Ie group system during the Edo period. Japan in the Edo period had the concept of hereditary occupations, meaning the smallest unit was not an individual, but a group of several people called a ie, meaning house or family. People of all classes, from samurai, merchants, and peasants, belonged to an ie and lived by running their family business. It might be closer to a small company than a family today. I explained earlier that commoners, other than samurai, did not have a surname. However, they did take a name of a store or a brand name of a product as something similar to a surname. For example, if I was Apple's Shogo and Microsoft Harumi got married to me, she would be called Apple Harumi from there. The idea of this ES system can be seen in how Japanese traditional culture has ryuha styles, and how maiko and sumo wrestlers must all belong to a certain house or room. In the past, it was more important to know which ie that individual belonged to, rather than about the individual himself or herself. After Japan westernized through the Meiji Restoration, the ie system ended, and instead a new family register was introduced to manage the people. In order for this new family register to take on the role of the traditional system, a rule was created that family members must always share the same surname. Today, however, hardly any families live or run a business together, so there really is no specific meaning for married couples to have the same surnames like people did in the past. 3. Disadvantages for married couples having the same surname. The formalized surname system that does not fit the current society has many disadvantages. 1. The name change procedure is complicated. 2. The loss in business accomplishments. 3. Gender equality will not be achieved. First of all, women must bear the burden of the name changing procedure for all kinds of things as a result of marriage. Driver license, credit cards, passports, insurance. The list goes on and on. It's worse when women with children are divorcing or remarrying, in addition to being forced to change their names again and again. If their surname is different from their child's, they will have to reapply for school-related documents, and even for withdrawals of fees for any lessons the child is taking. Also in business, being forced to change one's surname can result in a loss of accomplishments and credibility that person has built up. Some companies allow the use of formal surnames in the workplace, but the number does not exceed 50%. It is as if women are told to give up their business careers when they get married. Some women cannot change their surnames whatsoever because they've inherited a corporation from their parents and must remain unmarried for their whole lives. And worst of all, women are the ones who are always forced to go through all this, even though they're able to choose either from the husband's or wife's surname freely. This means that the whole Japanese society has admitted that if one side needs to suffer, it should naturally be women. Some people say,
"Jeez, it's just some paperwork, just get it done.
or
We're gonna have kids and quit our jobs sometimes anyway. Just shut up and live with it."
in a society where such values are tolerated, it is impossible for all people to live happily, let alone create a gender-equal society. As I explained earlier, only 4% of men take the family names from their wife's side. The major reason for this is that most people look at such a situation in a negative way, such as he is controlled by a selfish woman, or he may be after the property of her parents-in-law. We can't just wish for Japan's society to someday get better. We actually need to change the system like this to change the mindsets of the people. Then finally, let's discuss why the separate surname system for married couples is not implemented in Japan. Despite the various disadvantages, and being the only country in the world carrying on such an outdated law, why is Japan not willing to change? It is because there are still many politicians and citizens that believe the following things. 1. You won't be able to choose the same surnames anymore. 2. The same surname is a tradition and should be preserved. 3. Separate surnames diminish the sense of family unity. The long-discussed system of separate surnames for married couples is only a system that adds an option of both choosing their original surname. If couples want to have the same surname, that's completely fine too. However, there are many people who misunderstand that once this new system is introduced, married couples must always have different surnames. The opposition of these people is still strong, and it is a major reason why the separate surnames of married couples have not been realized. Next, there are those who argue that the same surname for married couples is an important Japanese tradition and needs to be preserved. However, as I've explained earlier, the history of same surname marriage is rather short considering the entire history of Japan, and it's impossible to be called a tradition. If they cherish traditions so much, they should be supporting separate surnames. Yes, the ie system during the Edo period may have had some tradition because it lasted for more than 200 years. However, again, the current family registry does not have the same aspect of people who belong to it doing business together. So the social situation is completely different. Finally, there are many who argue that if married couples have separate surnames, the sense of family unity will diminish. This theory literally has no logical proof. Family relationship issues have nothing to do with surnames, but rather with more specific things such as compatibility, personality, and financial situation. Above all, Japan is the only country that still continues this old system. So are they trying to insist that families around the world are not united because they don't share the same family name? That is the silliest thing I've ever heard of. I am a Japanese man living in Japan with a separate surname from my wife because she's Chinese. But my fellow viewers must know how much Harumi and I get along well. The United Nations has issued 3 recommendations in 2003, 2009, and 2016, calling for the abolition of Japan's marital surname provision as discriminatory against women. Japan has continued to ignore them and has not changed anything to this day. Japan is not just a collectivist society, but it's the world's leading aging society. This makes the people more reluctant to change than any other country in the world. And they tend to value tradition and what has been handed down more than rationality and efficiency. However, the disadvantages of the current society are clearly shown in various aspects as concrete data, such as being the only country in the world with an economic downturn for more than 30 years, the world's highest youth suicide rate, and the lowest ranking in the gender equality rankings. For future generations, I believe that Japan must change immediately, and I am willing to do everything I can to help. Then lastly, today's conclusion. The same surname for married couples was introduced only 120 years ago in 1868, when Japan westernized through the Meiji Restoration. Until then, Japan had separate surnames for married couples for thousands of years, and most commoners didn't even have surnames in the first place. The current family register is a remnant of the ie group system of the Edo period, and this is why married couples are forced to have the same surnames. There are many disadvantages to having this outdated system. 1. The name change procedure is complicated. 2. The loss in business accomplishments. 3. Gender equality will not be achieved. The reason why the separate surname system for married couples is not implemented in Japan is because there are still many politicians and citizens that believe the following things. 1. You won't be able to choose the same surnames anymore. 2. The same surname is a tradition and should be preserved. 3. Separate surnames diminish the sense of family unity. Japan is not just a collectivist society, but also the world's leading aging society, which makes the people more reluctant to change than any other country in the world. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If this video helped you to deepen your understanding towards Japanese society, please hit the like button to help me boost this video to more people. And my goal is to achieve 1 million subscribers by January 2023, so your help would mean a lot. And please check out our sub-channel and membership through the link inside the description box. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. どうもありがとうございました。So this might be a little bit off topic from today's main topic actually, but the reason why the Edo shogunate, the Tokugawa shogunate, created the ie system, the group system I mentioned earlier, is very, very interesting. As I always say in a lot of my videos, the Edo period was a peaceful time, an era for more than 250 years without any wars, was very peaceful by the complete control of the shogunate, right? Yeah. And the ie system, which I usually don't mention that much in my previous videos, but it's actually one of the measures that the shogunate took to control the people. So by forcing each person to belong to a group, yes, so the smallest unit is not an individual but a group, right? But because every person belongs to a group, if one person makes a mistake or commits a crime or something like that, the whole group will be responsible for it. That makes sense. So people inside the group will always be like, don't put dirt on our, family name kind of thing, Don't put dirt on our brand's name, Behave, don't stand out, be like everyone else, behave kind of thing. Yeah. So basically this EA system forced the people to, the system itself kind of basically forced people to not make trouble, for the shogunate. Yeah, to what should I say, basically keep each other under surveillance kind of thing. Yeah. So I think this is one of the, again, a very, very smart way, a very creative way that the Tokugawa shogunate used to control the people.